Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. And tonight I'm titling this video, this long range weather outlook, Winter Set to Return. And I will go over some of these charts like I normally do, and I'll explain as we get deeper into the forecast period about what we're looking at as far as winter type weather returning to Southeast Virginia. All right, so let's start off with Friday, the 20th of January, the end of this week coming up. And what we're expecting is an area of rain will be sitting off to the west-southwest of Southeast Virginia. We have a 1,004 millibar low pressure system over central Illinois, with rain extending from southern Wisconsin down into Indiana, Ohio, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, into eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, down to the Gulf Coast states and the Florida Panhandle. What we expect, and this is at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, by the way, so the rain will not quite be in here by that point. We are expecting this swath of rain to move into Southeast Virginia around 12 noon on Friday. So it will become a wetter Friday, a wet start to the weekend for some folks here across the area. As far as the jet stream goes, we have a strong jet speed maximum, a trough, a long wave trough, moving into the western United States once again, and then we have a ridge type pattern over the top. We have this area of lower pressure trying to develop underneath this ridge, the long wave ridge. And then we just generally, across Southeast Virginia, we do have a little area of higher wind speeds blowing from west to east across the area. See a little bit of a troughing, a negative tilt to this to the trough, orientation from northwest towards the southeast. But overall, this is going to be a support. We do have a shortwave trough at the 18,000 foot level as well to basically support the surface low and this rain that will eventually move into Southeast Virginia. Again, around midday on Friday, we expect the rain to move in. Moving on to Saturday, the 21st of January, that whole area of rain, that storm system is no longer indicated on our charts. We do have the rain, which has pushed offshore, so we expect Saturday to be a drying out day across Southeast Virginia. If you have any outdoor plans this Saturday, it looks dry at this point. As far as the jet stream pattern, you notice that the jet stream, again, we have a long wave trough. It has moved a little further east, it shifted just basically into the Utah area, into the Colorado Rockies as well. And again, we have this long wave ridge that is basically going to poke itself with higher heights up into central Canada, and then a long wave trough just into Maine and offshore, another trough there just to the east of Canada over the North Atlantic. But overall, over Southeast Virginia, we have southwesterly wind flow at 30,000 feet, which again indicates very mild conditions. We really don't have any Arctic air. As I stated yesterday's video, we really have a lack of Arctic air from the Rockies east. It's just very mild conditions for this time of year. Moving on to Sunday, the 22nd of January, we do expect a new area of low pressure to develop over the Texas-Oklahoma border, a 991 millibar low. We will have a frontal system that will be extending into the Gulf of Mexico. We will have a little bit of wintry precip on the backside into the Panhandle area of Texas, perhaps down to Amarillo. A lot of rain on southerly wind flow out ahead of that low pressure storm system into the southeast states. We will remain dry here in Southeast Virginia for Sunday as well, so it looks fairly dry for the weekend at this point. And if anything changes, we'll be sure to update you here from Spot On Weather. As far as the overall long wave pattern, the jet stream axis extends a long wave trough offshore over the eastern Pacific into the Gulf of Alaska. And then we have an actual ridge trying to build now over the western United States, and then more of a trough over the central United States. So that trough has shifted from off Southern California all the way to the central United States, the Plain States, 2 days later by the 22nd. For Southeast Virginia, what we're looking at is more of a southwesterly wind flow again at 30,000 feet. And that will generally lead again to mild temperatures. You do also notice that there's another storm system that's coming into the west coast of the United States on Sunday. As far as the football games, I know there's one up in Foxborough, Massachusetts. It looks dry at this point and fairly mild for this time of year for the Steelers at the Patriots. So that game looks really dry. And as far as in Atlanta, the Packers at the Falcons. Right now, of course, it's an inside dome, the Georgia Dome, and it's looking like it's going to be raining on the outside of that dome on Sunday. All right, moving on to Monday, the 23rd of January. This area of low pressure is really cranking. It's over the northeast part of Arkansas with a wide swath of rainfall extending all the way, wrapping all the way around this low from the Florida Peninsula up through South Carolina, North Carolina, into Southeast Virginia, all the way into the Ohio River Valley and across the Midwest. Again, notice this is all rain. That tells you something. January 23rd, and we have all rain all the way up into Canada. So that tells you how mild the weather pattern remains. Most of the wintry weather remains out west in association with this long wave trough that's moving into the west coast. Now you notice there's a deeper trough of low pressure that extends all the way from South Dakota down into the Gulf of Mexico. But you notice the flow on the front side of a long wave trough, it's really coming strong out of the south. So we're going to have a very, very mild day on Monday the 23rd if this orientation of the jet holds up. A south to north orientation with southerly winds, fairly strong as well. Moving on to the 24th, Tuesday the 24th of January, the area of low pressure just drifts slowly northeast and it's weakening or filling. We do have a little bit of lingering rain showers on Tuesday morning. That will be pushing offshore throughout the day for Southeast Virginia. Another area of low pressure over the Rocky Mountain states at 998 millibars, a lot of mountain snows. So for skiers out west, they're going to continue to love the conditions. For the long wave pattern, as far as the jet stream level at 30,000 feet, we have a ridge, again, trying to poke its way up just to the eastern Pacific and into western Canada, and a long wave trough and cooler conditions associated with the snow over the Rocky Mountain states. A little bit of a ridging over the central Gulf, and another trough now going down off of the east coast of Florida and into the western Atlantic, and then another ridge. So it's a very complex weather pattern in the long range. And any shifts of this jet stream pattern could result potentially in some cooler weather than what we're projecting right now. So we'll just have to keep an eye on things, as it's a very complicated long wave pattern. A lot of ridges and then a lot of troughs all over from west to east. And then Wednesday, January 25th, we have an area of low pressure offshore. We look to be dry over Southeast Virginia at this time. The storm system is moving east from the Rockies into Oklahoma, some snow into the northern plain states. Now this is where this system here is going to drag the colder air down. You'll see that we have ridging developing in the long wave pattern. The jet stream level, the jet stream axis is now ridging up, poking up over the western United States. And then we have a trough going down into the central U.S., followed by another bump up of heights and higher heights and a ridge over the eastern U.S. So this is going to be one of the last couple mild days for Southeast Virginia. As this storm system moves east, this trough axis is going to shift east with it, and that's going to drag colder air back down to our area and a return to more winter-like conditions. And here it is. I go 2 days later from the 25th. I now skip the 26th and go right to the 27th when things start to get more winter-like. We have a strong cold front. The area of low pressure that was down here in Oklahoma is now raced off to the northeast to the Great Lakes states. And you notice more snow now on the backside of this area of low pressure from Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa down to Missouri. And then right along the leading edge here of this is the colder air, the blue line here, the 540 decameter line, lower thickness. That's going to start pushing into Southeast Virginia. We expect one more mild day, and then when that front blows through later on the 27th, temperatures will cool off, and you will notice a difference. You also notice 1048, a fairly strong Arctic high-pressure system sitting over the Rocky Mountain states. Now let's look at the long wave pattern, and notice how this trough shifted from the central U.S. and moved east, and it's quite deep. You see more of an orientation now, a ridge trying to build over the west coast into western Canada, and a deeper trough configuration over the eastern United States with cold air pouring into the base of this long wave trough into the midwestern United States. This is eventually going to shift east. Lots of jet stream energy, higher wind speeds indicated by the yellow colors over here on the east side of the trough. 120 to 140 knot wind speeds here. Okay, so we're going to have to keep an eye as this trough is deeper. If this trough deepens more amplification from the north to south, we have to keep an eye on possible storm development somewhere along the leading edge of this trough for the East Coast, and especially for Southeast Virginia. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And then much colder temperatures on the 28th of January. If I zoom in here, now we're looking at thickness values of less than 534 decameters. Now you're seeing scattered snow showers. High pressures are setting up over the Rockies. The clockwise flow around them, directing northwesterly wind, colder air from Canada towards Southeast Virginia. And this makes a much colder pattern. So our temperatures are going to be dropping. You'll notice a considerable drop, especially after the 27th. The first full day of the colder temperatures on the 28th of January. And again, we have to keep an eye on any possible storm development because temperatures are going to be cold enough by this point to possibly support snow and wintry precip. Now I want to show you an interesting chart here. Go ahead and look up stratospheric warming or look up sudden stratospheric warming. Usually these type of events, so when I'm talking about stratospheric warming, stratosphere is a layer above the troposphere. And whenever the stratosphere warms considerably, it's been known by past research by scientists within the meteorological field. They've done research on this. And these bluer areas, now I want you to imagine this is actually the United States, this is Canada, this is the polar area. This is basically on its side at this point, but the bluer colors indicate colder than normal stratosphere temperatures. And then the yellow colors indicate warmer than normal stratosphere temperatures. And usually when the stratosphere warms in the winter, the surface temperatures where we live get colder. And you can even look it up here on this link that I included by Dr. Judah Cohen of AER. His latest detailed blog is available here. He talks much more in depth about the stratospheric warming event, the polar vortex, and the such. But notice how the positioning of the colder temperatures of the stratosphere will shift east. This is a later frame here. This is a later time period, okay? This goes out to Sunday the 22nd. We're going to have the colder temperatures at the stratosphere replaced by these yellows, which are warming temperatures over the western Canada and the western United States. What that may do is that may lead to more ridging in the west and troughing in the east, and that supports colder temperatures. So we have to watch out not only in the troposphere where we live, but also what happens in the stratosphere above us. So looking at long-range final thoughts, we expect mild temperatures to continue from 18 through 27 January. Highs mainly in the 50s to occasional 60s, and lows in the 40s to near 50. Occasional rainy periods on the 20th, the 23rd, and the 24th of January. And we have to watch that sudden stratospheric warming, okay, and the pattern that may ensue as we return to a much colder weather pattern after 27 January, lasting into February. And then still watching for the potential for wintry precip across southeastern Virginia. We'll keep an eye on that and keep you updated. And don't forget, stay tuned to Spot On Weather for the latest updates. Look me up, Matthew P. Euler, in Facebook, Spot On Weather YouTube channel, which you're watching, and Spot On Weather in Twitter. We post the latest forecasts at those locations. That's all I have for now. It's a cloudy, overcast night across southeast Virginia. We'll be having some rain moving into night and early Wednesday morning. And then a little bit cooler air on Thursday. And that's all I've got for now. All right, so have a great Tuesday evening, everyone. Take care, and remember, we're Spot On Weather. If we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great evening.